today I am reviewing the most versatile French estate you can buy for your money. This is the Citroen C5 exclusive. So guys, we're going to be talking about three main things today. That is the spec levels and engine options for the C5. We're also going to discuss the performance of the car. We're going to discuss spec, and we're going to discuss reliability. This is going to be your conclusive review of the C5 generally, and we're also only focusing on the exclusive model today, which is the highest model you can buy from factory. So all of the other VTR, VTR Plus Nav, etc. lower models will not be really mentioned upon in this review. But we are reviewing this one today, and this is a mighty fine example of a pre-facelift 2009 exclusive with hydraulic-free suspension. Okay guys, so today's example is a 2009 138 HDI 2-litre automatic. And we're going to quickly talk about engines and specifications. So in terms of trim levels, you start off with the entry-level VTR. They then offer the VTR Plus. They offer a VTR Plus with a nav option as well. And then they also offer the exclusive, which is the top of the range. And on the facelift, you can get the exclusive with the Techno Pack as well, which is for your multimedia and stuff like that. So that's your main few. There are a few different ones that are there and in between, but that is the majority of them there. And in terms of engines, this has such a vast array of engine options. It is actually the last conventional Citroen estate. On top of that, it is the last Citroen to ever have hydro pneumatic suspension. And also, to finish off with the Mighty 3, as I've just mentioned, it is one of the last, well, it is in fact the only last Citroen to be offered with a 6-cylinder variant. So if you are looking for a C5 that is going to be ULEZ free, you are going to struggle. Now if you do find yourself a pre-facelift, you can find yourself a 1.8 litre petrol and also a 1.6 litre petrol, although the 1.6 litre petrols are so rare I don't think I've ever actually seen one about. As you go up, the only real option from the 1.6 and the very rare 1.8 is to jump into a 3-litre V6 petrol, which again is only from Europe and is only an import-only model. So right now in the UK there's only 2 for sale, and they are very rare indeed. So in terms of ULEZ options, there isn't really very many, which is probably one of the only letdowns of this vehicle. So as we go further into it, the diesel options are much better. So your diesel options start from 1.6, they then go up to 2 litre. You then have the best of the range in a lot of people's opinions, which is the 2.2 diesel. And then you have the option of the 2.7 V6 diesel, very rare on a pre-facelift. And on the facelift, you have the option for the full-blown 3-litre twin-turbo V6 diesel, again, very rare. Now, quickly while I mention that, in terms of value, these are, as they are, in any spec level, very good value for money, and you'll see through the video why the exclusive and this sort of age, this lower engine size is the best value for money. Now, there were 2 exceptions to the diesels which were ULEZ free, and you could get yourself a 2 litre on a very late facelift plate and a 2.2 on it, again a very late facelift plate, and they had AdBlue, but we're talking at the end of production in 2016/early 2017, so very rare. If you can find one, you will be able to get one, but again, very rare. Now in terms of prices, you can get yourself a wholesome C5 Touring for as little as £1,000. Now I must admit, that is only going to get you a lower model with less spec, but if you want one of these as a base, as an easy, simple purchase, £1,000 is always going to take you. Now, this is sitting around £3,000 in value as we talk. And what I would say is your V6 models are sort of 4 to 10 grand, depending on mileage. A lot of those are very low mileage and are quite late on the facelift. And the very rare but hard to find 2.2s and 2 litre diesels sort of sit slap bang in the middle, somewhere between 2 and 4,000, depending on history, mileage, all that sort of thing. Now, one thing you'll probably agree with me is the Estate is one hell of a good looking car. It is absolutely gorgeous, especially with the optional extra 19s, which were an option with the exclusive. They are just gorgeous. They really do kick the car off perfectly well. Now, there's a few benefits. Well, there's many benefits as to why you would go and buy yourself an exclusive over the rest of the range. Now, there's one that is very fundamental, and the other reasons, again, are very small, but they all add up just to make this vehicle so much better. So guys, we're now going to jump onto spec, and I'm going to tell you exactly why the exclusive is the model to have. We're going to start on the outside, and then we're going to get straight on the inside to show you all the goodies in there as well. Now, the exclusive as it stands isn't really a set level of spec, because an exclusive is actually not that much spec. It is the highest configuration from factory, but a lot of the additional options you had to spec from factory. So for example, you'll see some exclusives that have a sat nav and some that don't. You'll see some exclusives like mine that have don't have front parking sensors, don't have front xenons, but have a sat nav and have the premium seats. This will be explained in a moment. But basically, the setup for this car is rather just based on what they purchased from factory. But I'm going to run you through what you should really be expecting from the exclusive and the additions, obviously starting with the outside. So as mentioned, the exclusive can come with front parking sensors and can come with the bi-xenon headlights. Mine are halogen. I've updated these to LEDs with the facelift headlights. Have the really nice DRL. It's a really nice modification if you've got a earlier model. All of the facelifts come with these. And just to mention, the facelifts come from 2012/2011, and pre-facelifts are before. And as we go up the side, the other additions you get with the exclusive is this is normally chrome. It is dechrome with me, but the exclusive has this special black panel along with the chrome strip down the side, run to the door handles as well. And the exclusive models tend to offer the 18 and 19s more freely than you would with a lesser model, which all come on the 17s. You also get the satin silver roof racks, which on the conventional cars I think are just black, and some cars don't come with them at all. On the exclusive, you indeed get tinted, non-dazzling mirrors, heated electric, all that sort of thing. Obviously the mirror on the inside is non-dazzle as well. All the exclusives from factory come with some level of tint, although mine has been slightly altered. The exclusive as standard does come with rear parking sensors, and on the Estate only you have a very functional electric tailgate, which I'm going to jump in the boot now, show you some spec in there, and then we'll crack on back on with the interior. There we are. So it's a one-touch boot to open and close. You can also do it off the key fob. It is an amazing feature to have in a car of this age, and such a cheap car as well. To have that is a very cool function. In terms of the boot, on the exclusive, you get the metal plated trim, which is for your load inlet. You get a spare, it's not actually a spare rim, it's only a spare steely, but it's helpful. We have a retractable load bay. You have on the exclusive, you have this, which is your light for the rear, but also is a torch as well, which is actually quite funky, I must admit to you. Various clipping points on here and here. 12-volt socket again on the exclusive in the rear. You have the height adjustable suspension option for the rear when you're loading. Again, we'll get onto that big part of the exclusive in a moment. You have the load tray, which I don't think is actually standard on all models as far as I'm aware. You can vaguely see it here. You have the ski hatch through the back on the back seats. You'll see that in a little bit when we pull the armrest down. And there are also hooks at the bottom to put a net down like so. It really is, honestly, excellent car. And again, it just looks really striking and nice with a few subtle mods. So we'll start with the rear first, then we'll work our way around to the front. Now, the one key feature you're going to see straight away is the pan roof. Now, that is actually, as far as I'm aware, an optional extra on the exclusive, which mine has come with. And we do have a rear cigarette lighter inside the back of here to charge your phone. So we have very plush and comfortable rear seats. Now the rear seats are the same on all of the C5 models, but the front ones aren't. I'll explain that in a moment. You've got storage, you've got, I'll try to grab it, you've got cup holders. Also ISOFIX for kids, which is really, really helpful. There's your ski hatch, look, through to your boot. Even the doors on the exclusive have the window nets on the rear for your children. And this has the LED pack as well, which is on the exclusive, which is all of the underfloor in the door handles. They have a front strip along the front. They even have lights in the door bins as well. Little nets in the back. So I'm telling you now, it is very, very practical. Now I've got the seat in the position suitable for adults in the front. And actually there's still decent enough leg room in here and headroom for anyone around 6 foot or more. It really is a very well designed vehicle. Now the boot space itself, as you've seen, is absolutely massive. So for a family car, it really ticks all the boxes. And as we come through to the front, bearing in mind guys, we still haven't mentioned the main thing about this car that makes it very special. As we come around to the front, we also have, where my bag is sat, we have the premium seats. Now on the non-exclusive models and the lesser models, they actually have more sportier bucketed seats, as I'll send you a photo of now. In the video you'll see it. But these are actually more comfortable. So the bucketed seats you get don't have the heated function, and some are manual, some are electric. Now what this one offers is heated as well as electric, base and back. Well, not only have you got the height of the chair, the adjustment of the base of the chair, the adjustment of the back of the seat, you've also got adjustment for this top part of the seat here, which sort of bends forwards and backwards, which is rather weird. And you also have a centre lumbar area here, like a roller. You can adjust up and down and bring in and out for optimum support. So it's sort of a 6-way adjustable seat, which is quite a high specification item for a reasonable price. It is really good. But if you want the more sporty seats, you'll have to get a non-exclusive to have them, which is a bit weird. But I guess these are the premium seats, and they go in the premium model. We're going to jump around to the driver's side and just discuss the additional feature on the driver's seat for this variation of the seat. And we'll talk about the interior cluster, all that sort of thing. And then we'll get onto the magic, what really makes this exclusive special from the rest. Here we are, guys. So on this seat, we have the massage function. It sort of feels like someone's sort of rolling a rolling pin into your back. I wouldn't say it's too amazing, but it's still there and it's functional, and it is nice with the heated seat on as well. So that is the only additional function added to the driver's seat there. Now obviously on the driver's side we have the controls for the seat. Not only that, it also does the mirrors as well, which is great. When you slip into reverse, you have the drop down function again, exclusive model, exclusive model. Now some of these options obviously are available and you can find them on lower models, but it's not going to be as likely, if I'm honest with you, for a lot of them. Obviously locking rear windows for your children. In terms of child safety, while we're at it, we have the rear window that only goes down to this far. So Citroen decided to build this window as this is, so for a little bit of child protection, for them sort of leaning out and things like that. So it is a very child safe vehicle, very family orientated. On top of this, while we're here, we're also mentioning that the exclusive has the laminated side windows. So this window, the two on the front window, and the windscreen is all double glazed, which is amazing. Now on lesser models you can still get the laminated screen. I think actually it was applicable for all of them as far as I'm aware, don't quote me, but it's more readily available on the windscreen for all of the variations. But on the exclusives you do have it laminated on the side windows as well, which is a great function. You've got to get tints, they look amazing. And as we come onto the inside, we can now have a little look at the interior display. Now you see my centre display there. That centre display is also, again, an optional extra with the exclusive. You have a sort of clear coloured display on the centre, which I must admit, if you have a little look on here, it is very crisp. Very, very crisp. And as we scroll through, we'll see that mine is a pre-facelift, so it's featuring an older style radio unit. Later facelift models offered this replacement unit with Bluetooth and other options, which is a little bit more up to date than mine. As we can see, we have the automatic box, which is actually very, very helpful for just everything. It's just really good. It's a great tow rig. It's a great family cruiser. There's also a snow mode, which is actually practically very decent off-road as well for the basic off-road trails. Electric handbrake. Now, if you have an electric handbrake, that means you have something quite special. And we're going to lead on to this now. Now, the Hydroactive 3 is offered on the exclusive as standard and is also offered on the VTR Plus models if spec'd, but it is quite rare. Now, the Hydroactive, if you don't want the Hydroactive, then you have to get a lesser model. And the one way to tell is they'll have a normal handbrake. Anything with a normal handbrake does not have Hydroactive 3. Anything with the electric handbrake does. Now, before we get on to the Hydroactive 3, as it's a little bit long in description, I'm going to quickly tell you, if you do not want the hydraulic suspension, then you have to spec yourself a lower model, and they come on standard shocks and springs. But if you want the additional benefit of having the Hydroactive 3, of course get an exclusive or a vehicle with it in, and you will get the following benefits. So first of all, the suspension is sports adjustable with a sports button, so you have the option to have a comfortable ride or a slightly firmer ride at the push of a button, which is rather helpful, and we'll again highlight this very soon. And secondly, it also gives you height adjustment of the car as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on the screen here. I'm actually going to jump in. We are in economy mode. We do love that. And I'm going to show you on the screen here. Now, obviously, what I'll do at the same time is I'm going to show you a video of the outside of the car at the same time. There we go. So we have 4 options here. So as you've seen, my car looks quite low and stancy, rather lovely. And that is because we are in the low position. So the low position is used for when you're loading the vehicle, and it means that when the car relevels itself back out again, it equates itself for the weight that you have loaded into it. It also makes lifting things into the boot and loading a trailer that little bit easier. So from that mode, we have a normal mode, and the normal mode is your normal driving mode. It is sort of the best height level for optimum comfort, road holding, and all of that with it. As you can see, it takes a little while to get there, but we are pumping. What I do find, if you take the handbrake off when you are lifting the car, because it basically pulls the wheels along the floor, because the handbrake is trying to hold obviously the wheels on the car as is. So yeah, that's normal mode. And then we have a high lift mode, you're going to see again here on the screen. And the high lift mode is what you'd use for off-road trails, hard of access. Also, if you've got someone who's fairly old or struggles with mobility, it's a great setting to leave the car in, to be able to put someone in and out of that might struggle with getting into a car of a lowered height. And you can drive that up to 25 miles an hour, so it's somewhat useful for very off-road related bits. Now, there's an additional setting on top of this, which I haven't taken a video of, but that is basically full extension of the car, and that is for only when you're going to be working on the vehicle or removing one of any wheels off the ground for a roadside tyre change or anything like that. Now, why the Hydroactive system is very special is because it self-levels itself as you drive. So if you end up loading your car with 5 people, loads of bags, or a trailer, or anything you choose to tow, it actually means that it will self-level itself for better ride, but also for better control of your vehicle as well. So for towing, it is actually rather good. Now this one, my car does come with a detachable tow bar, which I've got on the boot, with a pull down electric unit. And if you actually look, you will find that 1 in every 4 C5s will have a tow bar, a lot from factory or spec'd aftermarket. It's quite a popular car for towing. And it is definitely really, really worth it. So guys, we're going to go for a drive and I'm going to tell you what the C5 is like on the road. Alright then guys, so we're now out on the road and I'm going to take you through how this car drives. Now just before we do that, I'm going to mention just a few little specs and bits that I didn't mention, which mainly come with facelift vehicles, but just some other little bits of spec that really get you going with this car. Now, all I'm going to say is I'm going to put in the description for this video a link to the brochure for the facelift and pre-facelift models of this car. And what that shows you is all of the spec lists, all the technologies, all the equipment, all the options that you can get in this car, because there are loads, and I'm telling you there are loads. There is about 4 or 5 sheets worth of spec for this car. It is nuts. But I just want to mention a few little ones there that are a little bit advanced for the time this car came out. So this car does come with the option of the lane assist. Again, probably rare to find, but it is there. They do have an economy mode added on the facelift models on certain engine trims as well, to better improve the fuel economy. Again, running costs are going to come at the end after the drive in the car. And there are other things such as on certain models you can spec it with front and rear parking sensors, and also the rear parking sensors have a space measurement tool where you pull up to a space, press a button, drive past it, and it'll tell you whether your car will fit in that gap. So when you couple that with the electric tailgate, the laminated windows, the amazing seats with the massage function, there's some functions there that are way ahead of their time for a car that was made in only 2008 and produced through to 2017. So while we're here, I'm going to be heading onto a dual carriageway for a little while, and I'm going to tell you what this thing is like to drive. Now, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you it's not a performer, and when you do rag this car to its limit, it doesn't like it, and it also doesn't feel that inspiring either. So this is not a performance car. Now, obviously, people with the 3 litre variants with higher power and things will tell you that they are quite an animal in a straight line. And I guess with the correct tyres, better tyres and a few other things, it would be fairly okay. But I'm telling you now, it's definitely out of its depth as a track vehicle. As you can, the gearbox is decided not to kick down. Power delivery is smooth. Very, very smooth. Now, what I didn't mention earlier, and I will just mention now, is that there's only very few manual options available in this car as well. So a lot of them are automatic, some with and without the active free suspension. But your only real options for a manual are your 2 litre diesel, your 2.2, and that's basically it, as far as I'm aware. So there's not many options in terms of manual. But in terms of the drive, so obviously in the normal wafter mode, this is a mile muncher, motorway cruiser. This honestly feels like when you're going down the motorway that you are floating in the air. I'm not even exaggerating, it is absolutely amazing. And that's where this vehicle was in its prime. Now, with the double glazed windows, with the build of this car, the suspension that I haven't really touched on too much is double wishbone, along with the hydraulic suspension. It is very, very smooth. Now, the sports mode does help to firm things up. Now, the way I would describe it is if you were to go down a road or a B road quickly in the non-sport mode, you would find yourself slipping out of the seat quite often. Now, if you put yourself in the sports mode, it stiffens it up to an extent where you feel like you're not falling out of the seat. But it does. You do find that when you push the car to the limit, it does feel very weird. It's almost like it's very weird. You can't really feel what's going on. There's no real steering input, and there's just no feel with that suspension. You know, with springs and shocks, you feel a firmness. I mean, you feel when there's an unease, but with this, it just feels very weird. And there's at times where the back end will slightly sort of boost itself, kick itself to the side, not kick out obviously, but it will sort of like, it just performs a bit weirdly where the suspension is trying to sort of adjust itself while you're driving, and it's just a bit disjointed. But like I said, the sports mode is there, it firms at the ride indefinitely,
and helps for the performance that you would need. You may also find the sports mode might be more beneficial when you've got something on the back to stop it being so sort of bouncy. On the back, it's definitely very, very bouncy on the back. But the suspension setup does give for very good road holding. Now, what you don't realise with a C5 is it is a very wide car as well, or it is wide for a French car anyway. So it's sort of its hold on the road is very good. And I would be surprised if you're able to actually lose control of one of these cars just because of the mass, weight, and the sort of width that they hold on the road. There's definitely a presence there within the handling realm that the car offers you. So in terms of handling, it's great. Now, in terms of acceleration, it's really just down to the engine you buy. What I will comment on more than the engine, because the engine is just what the engine is that the AM6 gearbox in this, which is an Aisin gearbox in my 2-litre diesel, is very decent. So I've had a few different gearboxes, including the ZF, which, as you know, ZF is what you find in your Jaguars and your BMWs. I've experienced a few auto boxes, CVT as well, and I'm telling you now, it is really decent. The only two gripes I have is sometimes it holds gears a little bit too long. Now, there is a sports mode on the gearbox, which is again very functional, but that's only when you are thrashing it, because if you leave it in sports mode, it will just sit at 3,000 or 4,000 revs, expecting you to accelerate when you're not going to. So, not really too useful, the sports mode, for daily driving. But apart from it holding revs sometimes in third or fourth for a little while, that could be due to it needs a service at some point. It is partially probably because of that as well. Apart from that, and the fact that sometimes on the downshifts it can be a little bit juddery sometimes, it's all right. You know, I rate it for a French gearbox, for a car that was never built to be a premium vehicle or as premium as its counterparts. It certainly does the job very well. And the AM6 is actually used across the entire range of the engines as well. It's decent. It's a smooth gearbox. And as we're here with the whole engine side of things and performance, that's all sort of done and ticked. I will say that you probably can't hear much right. This guy's actually stopping to this guy out. Why are you doing this? You will find that actually inside the interior here, with the double glazed windows, it's actually very quiet. There's not too much road noise. Now, the tyres on my car are quite noisy, but you can probably hear if I drop the tone. It's fairly quiet. It's decent, you know. With a bit of music on, you can't hear anything at all. It's great. It's comfortable. And like I said, in terms of the performance and drive, 100% it is just sublime. But it actually ticks all the boxes. And not only that, in terms of ride, you can also go for basic off-roading, because the height it gives you on that lift is decent. You know, you can go through floodwater, you can go down rough trails. Even though it's front-wheel drive, the snow system sort of locks you in second or third, depending on what speed you're going, keeps the torque down, and actually works quite well in a light off-road hill or setting as well. So, you know, it's a freaking family carrying, you know, train pulling, you know, comfortable, cheap running, freaking very different, very cool, very rare estate. It's just, honestly, it's so versatile. And, you know, when we're talking we can pick one up for 1,500 quid, you cannot say more than that for a daily driver. It is amazing. And like I eventually said, we're going to come into now the running costs and the day-to-day expenses. So obviously, if you were to buy one without the hydroactive suspension system, of course, you're losing quite a lot of potential poor reliability factors that the suspension can offer if not being looked after in previous. So obviously, if you're looking for something that's going to be potentially more reliable, and I'm not saying it's unreliable, but probably more reliable or less to go wrong, definitely you will want to get yourself one with the springed normal suspension, of course. But with the suspension itself and the hydroactive, there's only really two things generally on the C5 to really watch out for. Now, there's a lot of small things people are going to mention, like wiper motors, weirdly, wipers themselves, rear wipers as well, the rear wiper motor, and all little silly things like that. But the main two, these are the most important two things that genuinely you need to make sure have been done, or you can look at and inspect to make sure they're good. And these two, in fact, are done on this very car as well. So apart from the cam mount, which is obvious, the important two things are the steering rack. So the steering rack is known for failing, and the pipes to the steering rack are known for perishing. As these are now, most of them all over 10 years old or getting towards that, of course, that's something that's fairly important to do. That cost the previous owner around almost £1,000 to get that done. Brand new steering rack and all the pipings, fittings, etc, etc. The second thing is the pump for the hydro pneumatic system. Now there's other parts of the hydro pneumatic system which are quite expensive, fairly rare, and also problematic, but the main one, of course, obviously, is your pump. And if your pump fails, obviously your suspension is going to drop and you can't lift it. So this has also been done on the car, and that cost a grand total of almost £1,200 for a new pump, suspension re-leveling and all of that as well. So this car is excellent and good to go to a good owner, and is certainly been very well looked after. I've got like a Bible's thickness wad of sheets with loads that have been done to it. Other key things to also mention along with the suspension setup is that the drop links and bushes often perish on these, and there's a lot of them, I must admit, as well, although they're mostly very accessible, sort of within delivery within 2 or 3 days, and are fairly reasonable, so it's not too bad. But that's to take into account. The HDI engines themselves, all of them really, bar the 2.7, are very reliable. Very, very reliable, and very decent on fuel. Now, because most of these are automatics, it does bring the tax down if you get a manual, but most of these are sort of sitting around £200 to £400 a year. Now, your V6 variants are quite a lot more, but for your everyday purchases, your 2.2s through to your 1.6s, you're looking at sort of £400 or less for tax for the year, so it's fairly high. The Autobox does lift it up a little bit, but that does come with it. Now, what you do benefit with the C5 is the insurance group is fairly high, but the insurance actually is very low. I found for a few people that have applied for looking to get insurance on this car, as well as myself, I find it very reasonable, extremely reasonable actually. And on top of that, the running costs are also great. So in terms of fuel economy, I am sitting around the 50 mpg mark in mine, and again, this isn't a light car, of course, but that is pretty decent for a 2-litre automatic. I know that there's other variants that can get up to 70 mpg, which are your little 1.6s, which come in your lower spec models. But basically, there's basically an engine and a spec that fits whatever your budget or whatever you want to get out of a C5. It literally fits it. So not only have you got the most versatile range of engines from 1.6 to 3 litres, you've got the option of standard springs and shocks or the adjustable hydrodynamic suspension, along with an amazing level of different trims that offer good levels of spec. You know, it's just excellent. And I don't really want to sit here and blabber on a lot much more about how amazing this car is, and I do have to admit there are probably things I've also missed, and I do apologise. But I'm hoping that you have enjoyed this video, and I've covered everything, hopefully, that is useful to someone looking to buy these. Now, if you have any questions in the meantime, drop them in the comments below. Please do that. Any input, any thoughts, anything you want to know, anything really, throw in the comments and I'll get back to you in an answer. But would I recommend the Citroen C5 Estate and Saloon to someone to buy? Yeah. And do you know what, like I said, it's versatile, it's applicable to pretty much everyone in every circumstance. You know, it's just awesome. It really, really is. And there's not much more else I can say, other than one final thing to finish this video of what has been an amazing vehicle that I've owned. And you're thinking, oh no, he's saying this, and he mentioned earlier for the new buyer. So indeed, as always, in casual Lewis fashion, I was planning to keep the C5 for a fair amount of time. It has been a great car so far, cheap to run, and it has been very decent. But unfortunately, or fortunately for me, but unfortunately for my C5, of course, I have been offered a very rare opportunity to have or own basically my dream sort of modern-ish day Peugeot in a spec as well, which is the best they offered, engine and trim, which is good. So I listed up this car on eBay, not expecting a lot, and actually within 5 days it had sold, which was last week now. Subsequently, I've had the car MOT'd just this week, and it is due to leave my ownership this weekend, so I can go and pick up this very rare example of the French car, or the Peugeot, that I've always wanted to own. So guys, this is the review, but also the end of me and my experience of driving the C5, and I am, I have to admit, rather gutted. And this car isn't going to be as practical as the C5 whatsoever, so I'm losing quite a bit of practicality, but what I'm gaining with that you'll again see in a future video. So guys, it was short and sweet, but the C5 has been a gem, and I'm glad the new owner is having an extremely good example of this C5, and I'll definitely think about it again and shortlist it in the future if I ever want a vehicle to use as a bit of a towing rig, because this car really is exceptionally versatile. So guys, thank you very much for watching this review video. I do blabber, it's just how I am, it's never going to change, but I hope this video has helped you looking for your purchase of your new C5.